This content is being brought to you by the Bourbon Real Talk American Whiskey Aroma Kit. This is a tool that I put together to help all you whiskey aficionados out there develop your palates. You can sit down with the vials and train your senses, or you can sit down with a great dram and break that whiskey down to its components. If you have any interest of purchasing a kit of your own, head on over to bourbonrealtalk.com/shop and pick one up. Thank you for listening. Hello everybody out there in Bourbon Real Talk land. Randy Sullivan here with a very special celebrity guest today. I have Ed Bley, formerly with Cork N Bottle, correct?
Yes, sir.
And moving on to some very exciting things. And if you're in the whiskey world, you're going to be excited to hear what he has to say today. So first off, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Been a big fan of what you've been doing so far. Love all of your picks. What do you have for us to drink today?
I brought a few of my opens that I think we'll have fun tasting. This is a Four Roses that was from the Angel Share private group that we did. It was a custom bottle called It's All Ed's Fault. It was a charity barrel that we did. We raised a lot of money for charity with that barrel. It was fantastic. So
Nice.
that'll be a fun one. That's an OBSV, 10-year, 11-month. I think this one's 18 proof.
Nice.
This is a Blonde Brothers. This was one of the first Blonde Brothers. Actually, it was the first Blonde Brothers picked in Northern Kentucky and in Kentucky. We released it. That was amazing barrel, 116.8 proof. I think you're going to really enjoy that one.
Nice.
This is the first MB Roland pick ever done. That one was fantastic. It's extremely smoky and caramely. We're going to have a blast with that one for sure. And then this was the last barrel I picked for Cork N Bottle, and that is the Swan Song barrel of the D Rick House, which is wonderful.
And I've actually had this one before, the last Russell's, and I thought that it had a lot of bright citrus fruit on it that was a little bit abnormal for me for a Russell's.
For sure.
So certainly enjoyed that. But so which one do you want to try first? Let's
just start with the Four Roses. We'll jump right into it. This is a tasty one. First, I don't know why my hand's shaking this morning, sorry.
I had too much caffeine.
I think I'm in the same boat. Someone do the same thing.
Yeah, I drank a little bit of caffeine before I left, and then I stopped to get gas, and I was like, a little more won't hurt. And then I got here, and I'm like, whoa! So that sometimes happens. So I think you became really well known in the whiskey world when you were really getting the barrel pick program off the ground here at Cork N Bottle, which we're actually just down the strip from. I did not know, but you also do tastings or something? Cork N Bottle does tastings?
Correct, they do.
So there's like a little speakeasy place, so that's where we're recording. And I think that you helped get that started as well.
I did.
But you didn't start off in the liquor industry, right? You were in the hospitality industry?
Well, long story, in the very beginning I was a chef for many years. And I worked with culinary arts. I went to culinary school. I had an absolute blast cooking. And I still do it to this day all the time. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things to do, just to unwind. And unfortunately, it doesn't bode well for the overall shape, but
I hear that.
But we eat well.
Yeah. I try to sacrifice certain things so that I don't have to sacrifice others, because I eat a lot.
I'm the same.
Meat and vegetables, but luckily I'm blessed. I do not like sweets. So.
Oh, I have a sweet tooth like crazy, so yeah, it hurts. But you're gonna taste it all in here, because all these are gonna be sweet
really
and crazy.
Sweet for it, yeah. All right, well, let's taste this one up. Oh my God.
It's all enveloping mouthfeel. Your whole tongue's tingling. Got a little bit of dryness from the oak in the middle of your tongue, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, but I mean the brightness of the fruit on this, but also I mean there's a lot of like rich tobacco, a little bit of smokiness on the back end, and some cinnamon.
Yeah.
A little bit of cinnamon. Is this the higher rye?
It is a high rye.
Okay.
So it's a high rye V yeast. And you know I like V's. A lot of the barrels I picked from Four Roses have been V. Especially the OESVs that have been coming out in the PS warehouse and the T warehouses that they have. They're fantastic. Oh my gosh. But
I've had a couple lately that were really smoky. One, Christopher Hart picked.
Yeah.
And I was drinking it, and I made a Century Kit, an aroma kit, to help people develop their palates and to break down whiskeys. And one of the scents is smoke, and I'm tasting his Four Roses pick. And if you watch the video, I'll hold my glass out and I smell my hand. I thought I got some of the smoke on my hand.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was the whiskey.
That's amazing.
So it's amazing. Funny. So you did start off as a chef.
I did.
And how long were you working in that industry before?
Oh, years. I want to say 8 years, 9 years, maybe 10. It's been a while ago. I mean, I was much younger, so I was just out of high school when I started in that.
Yeah, and that's a grind. People don't understand the hours that a chef puts in.
It's insane. You don't have any weekends. You don't have any holidays. You work opposite what everybody else does. So you don't get to see all your friends all the time, and it really is. It beats on you after a bunch of years. And the crazy thing is as a chef, you don't really cook.
Right.
You do most of the menu design, you do the handshaking, the baby kissing, you make the appearances, you work on the menus, do the costing, you do everything but cook as a chef.
Right.
And I enjoy cooking. So the grind on staying in the hot kitchen all summer long and the long hours and not getting to see all my friends eventually led me to try other opportunities. And so I did a little bit of freelance stuff, I did some sales stuff, and then I ended up, long story short, right before I came to Cork, I was working as a medical assistant for a neurosurgeon.
Wow, a medical assistant?
Yeah, for a brain surgeon, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So were you in when they were doing the surgery?
No, I was in office. Okay. So we saw the patients after the surgeries. I did all the pre-surgery and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun helping people, and the background of being able to give back and help people is one of the pieces that I brought with me to Cork. I really enjoyed it. My grandmother volunteered doing charity work at Children's Hospital. She sewed for children until she was 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
The week before she passed, that Thursday, she was sewing at Children's Hospital still. They sewed all the gowns and all the toys that they give the kids while they're there. She always told me, she says, Ed, she says, life is great, making money is great, doing all those things is great, but if you have the opportunity to help somebody, that's special.
Right.
And so a lot of the things that I based my program around at Cork was charity work. So you'll see a lot of like this bottle in particular was one that we helped raise money for charity for. We raised money for the National Ranger Association so they could hold the Ranger Games. We've raised money for Northern Kentucky, the Dragonfly Foundation. I want to say we raised almost 50 grand for them.
Wow.
They deal with patients that have cancer that are kids. Those type of things are fantastic. I enjoy helping more than anything. Yeah. And if I can earn a living while I'm helping other people, then all the better.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know this, and we do have a lot of new viewers that have recently subscribed to the channel, and some of them may not be as experienced in the whiskey world as others. And if you are new to the channel, just know that the whiskey community is filled with philanthropy. I mean, there are always fundraisers going on. We have helped raise money for funeral expenses for a family that lost a loved one that didn't have money. Our little club partnered up with the Oklahoma Bourbon Connoisseurs, and we raised almost $41,000 for an organization that supports disabled children and veterans. So, if you're just getting into the whiskey game, just know that part of the way that we soothe our souls for all of the brown water that we spend money on is we do a lot of charity work too.
I looked back a couple years ago just to see, because I was curious. I've raised well over $1 million for charity since I've been here.
Wow.
So, and to me, that's special. I don't need a whole lot to be happy. I like the ability to raise my community, raise the city around me up, and hold them up, and help the people that are in it. And all across the U.S. for that matter. We've done a ton of charity everywhere.
Yeah. So you were working as an assistant neurosurgeon.
Medical assistant, yeah.
Yeah, or assistant to a neurosurgeon, and at some point you met the owner of Cork, right? Weren't you at a pick or something?
So this story's kind of crazy. I went through the worst spot in my life about 6.5 years ago, and I lost my house, I lost my family, I lost everything instantly overnight. Long story, drama, not fun. Moved down to Texas for a year. Stayed down there. On the way down to Texas, was going down to move down there for a job, and the job got rescinded as I was in New Orleans with the U-Haul strapped to the back of the truck, and I'm down in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, I was down in a place called Harlingen, which is about 15 minutes north of Brownsville, which is by the south point of Texas.
Correct, yeah.
Yep. So I didn't speak Spanish. They didn't speak English.
Right.
And it didn't work out so well, so I moved back up here, and we had a barrel coming into Cork N Bottle from Whiskey Barrel Society. It was a Four Roses barrel, a couple of them. And so I came into the store on a whim just to meet, because we were running Whiskey Barrel Society at the time. I came in to meet Kyle Dines, and we were going to try some. And then I was sitting there at the table in the middle of the store, and there were some customers standing over staring at the bourbon section. And they had a classic bourbon pose. And you can always tell somebody that has no idea what to do.
Right.
Because they stand there with their hand on their hip, the hand on the jaw, and they got their head cocked sideways, and they're staring blankly at a wall of whiskey. No idea what to buy. So I asked Tim, who was the general manager at the time, I said, "Do you want me to go help him?" I said, I'm cool. I'll go help him. He goes, "Sure." And I walked over and I started talking to him, and I asked him, what did you drink before? What have you tried? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Here's some bottles that are kind of along that path. This is why I think you'll like them. They walked out with 6 bottles of whiskey.
Nice.
Tim goes, how the hell did you do that?
Education? Yeah. Customer service?
He says, do you need a job? And I had literally that week moved back up here.
Right.
And I needed to find something permanent. This wasn't going to be it.
Right.
I was like, it's a liquor store. I'm not going to make a fortune working here.
Sure.
I may be able to skate by until I find something more permanent. And so I started working here, and then I saw opportunity. They were fresh out of bankruptcy here at Cork when I came. They had gone through a rough spot for the store. They had spread it out, and they didn't have terms. They weren't on credit with distributors.
Right.
That's a death sentence in the liquor business.
Right.
Because it takes a while to see any recoup on what you're selling. There's not a lot of margins in it. Everybody's very, very competitive.
Right.
So we were able to take the product they had, sell it, reinvest it back in the store, and rebuild the store that you saw over there all the while. It took a lot of time to do and a lot of effort, but I was able to do that without spending a dime marketing.
And so what do you attribute that to?
Treating people the way that I would want to be treated going into a liquor store. Everybody's special. Everybody that comes into my store when I was there, it wasn't my store, but everybody that came into my store,
like it was your store.
They were there to give me money and to treat me special. The least I can do is be appreciative of their effort of coming in to see us.
Right.
So I treated everybody special. I always took time out of my day to talk to everybody. If they wanted to sit down and taste a whiskey, I'm more than happy to do that every time I was in there. And I sat and I just talked with people. And you treat people that way, and you know what happens is they appreciate it and they come back. Too much today, the liquor stores are not appreciative of all of their customers.
Right.
I see it everywhere. They walk in and it's like the customers are a nuisance to them. It's a more of a problem than a solution.
Right.
That's not the way to operate.
Sure.
We're in for an interesting time in the whiskey business because we're into a time where it's going to be the best time in the world to be a picker. When I picked, it was the hardest time to pick. There wasn't very many programs. There wasn't very many options. Everybody was locking everything down because they were selling everything. I had to go in and fight for scraps and then find the gems in the scraps in order to make it work. Now it's getting to the point where the liquor business is going to need the consumers more than the consumers need the distilleries.
That is an interesting outlook because you do not see that in the behavior.
Nope, it's coming though.
At any tier.
Right.
Any of the 3 tiers, right?
But check this out. The reason that's going to happen is because of how many new distilleries are coming in the market.
Right.
There's going to be an insurgence of juice coming in the market, of bourbon that'll be hitting the market. There'll be more bourbon than there is people buying it at some point. There's going to be a tipping point.
Right.
And there's over 2,000 new distilleries last year in the U.S.
Right. Well, not only do we have new distilleries, but most of the large distilleries are in the middle of a huge expansion.
Huge.
And I heard a statistic that there's only actually been an increase of 18% in bottle sales in the last 10 years or something like that. But virtually everybody has a 100% increase in capacity. So it seems like at some point there could be a glut of whiskey and there's going to be winners and losers. And I think the winners are going to be the ones that have the mindset that you were using to rebuild C&B, right?
Worked.
Customer service. So whiskey brings people together.
Absolutely.
And I know that you've had experiences with almost all of the whiskey celebrities, having done what you do. So could you tell us one or two of your favorite memories that were caused by you being in this hobby, in this industry?
First, my favorite part about this is the people. My network of people that I have met in all kinds of different positions and all kinds of different backgrounds is staggering over the past few years. When I released Old Baldy 2 here, I had 6,000 private messages that week. We counted them just because I wanted to.
Just for fun.
I needed to. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was insane. But those are people from all across the U.S. that were trying to get hold of me because they wanted to support me. They saw what I was doing and they wanted to support me. And I cannot thank and I cannot state how underappreciated that is with all the enthusiasts.
Right. Well, and I'm noticing that some of the new entrants in the market are seeing value there with working with the enthusiasts, the clubs, and whatnot. And some of the older brands, it seems like they're tolerating the clubs and those enthusiasts.
They're a nuisance to them.
But I'm hopeful that at some point we'll find a way to all work together in a happy, cohesive way.
Let them start not making as much money as they are. You're going to find that real quick.
So what are some of those memories that you have that that you could share with
My
us?
favorite was one at Wild Turkey, and we were talking a little bit about this off camera, but I wanted to tell it. It's one of my favorite stories, and I know it's one of Eddie Russell's favorite stories too. I don't know if you all know this or not, but in 2017, Cork N Bottle was Wild Turkey's #1 private barrel customer in the U.S. Actually in the world, honestly. We sold well over 20 barrels that year out of one location. Mm-hmm. So I was down to Turkey very, very frequently. Eddie and I became very close and very good friends, and I really, really respect that guy. Mm-hmm. And his father. Don't get me wrong, his dad is amazing. Jimmy is amazing. I love Turkey. It's my favorite place to pick, hands down.
Right.
Okay. We were filming for Bourbon Pursuit, and you can see that podcast on theirs where it shows the entire pick on there. And Eddie, unfortunately, had been called to Campari in Italy for a meeting and was unable to be on film, so Jimmy did that pick. It was the only pick he did in that year. Mm-hmm. So we're going through and we're doing a pick, and when I go to Turkey, those that don't know, when you go into Rick House, all the barrels are set out where you can go through and pop any of them that you want to taste. And the problem is when you're about 15 barrels in, you forget which ones are the best ones. Because they all look the same. They're whiskey barrels.
Right.
So I mark my barrels that I was interested in with a little coin. Just a little coin on it, a penny, a nickel, a dime, whatever I had in my pocket at the time to go back to if it was a barrel I was interested in. Well, things were going crazy with the filming. We were having a good time. We ended up, I think, opening 20 some odd barrels on that pick. I think we picked 5 barrels on that one.
Yeah.
And I forgot to pick up the coins afterwards. Well, nobody had been in the Rick House all weekend. That was on a Friday. Eddie was in Campari in Italy, and he flew back into town on Sunday, I think it was, and nobody had been in there until Monday when he had another group come in to pick. And those coins were still on the barrels. And the guys that was coming in to pick asked Eddie, he said, "What are all those coins on the barrels?" And Eddie knew right away what was going on.
Because he's picked with you.
Yeah, and he knew I was in there picking and everything. And he goes, "Oh, well, this guy from Northern Kentucky was down." And the guy goes, "Wait a minute." He goes, "You're talking about Ed from Cork N Bottle?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, that guy." And Eddie said, "Yeah, that's him." And the guy says, "I'll take that barrel, and that barrel." And never even opened them.
Well, your reputation does precede you when it comes to picks.
This smells so good.
I know. I'm geeking out on both of these.
The nose is just so incredible on this barrel.
Yeah, and this one's got on the Four Roses. I was getting more of a cherry cordial kind of a thing, but
the chocolate came out as it sat there a little bit. It was kind of wild.
But this one I'm getting more of those darker. Of course the butterscotch, but those darker, aromas like the tobacco and chocolate and.
So I say this and people look at me cross-eyed, like, why would that be a good smell? But one of my favorite smells in whiskey is like nail polish remover or paint thinner a little bit. Mm-hmm. I love that smell. You get it a lot in weeders, especially. This isn't a weeder, but I pick it up in this one.
Okay.
See if you can pick it up.
Well, to me, that's a sensation and not a smell. Yeah. But maybe my palate's definitely not as sophisticated as yours. So
it's a very unique smell, but I get it a lot in Stitzel products. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of Stitzelweller sitting around to drink, unfortunately.
I love that distillery, by the way. One of the best, for sure, hands down.
Did they reopen?
Yeah, under Diageo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I had heard that was happening.
Yeah, but not the same place now.
And then you came into CNB. Mm-hmm. When you first were hired, were you just working the floor?
Yeah, I was stocking shelves.
And then you kind of worked into,
It was going through a massive transition period. So the way it worked was really crazy. When I started, I was literally just stocking shelves and selling products on the floor just to help. And then they went through some transition period and the management got replaced and I kept moving up and eventually I was running the spirits and the beer department there. And then they were looking for a GM and I declined to do that because I just couldn't do everything.
Right.
It's just so much.
Right.
So I just stayed with that until I ended up transitioning into what I'm doing now.
Okay.
And it took a little while to figure out what that was going to be. And then once I figured it out, I've been playing it hard and my gosh, what a challenge.
Yeah.
Well,
so at some point you went from being kind of known for picking mm-hmm. to being known for being able to make an interesting blend.
Sure.
Which is, I joke, I interviewed Nancy Fraley.
She's awesome. I love Nancy.
Which everyone loves Nancy. And if you haven't seen that interview, even if you don't like whiskey, you should just go watch it to hear her laugh. It's so worth it.
It's so awesome.
But I told her, I'm scared to death of blending.
Why?
Well, because I really respect the effort that went into making the product.
Sure.
And so my ability to blend at a distillery is 0. So if I'm blending at home, and I don't want to disrespect somebody else's bottle.
It's hard,
and I don't want to screw it up.
Yeah, because
and think of it like this: when you're picking a barrel, you're picking what tastes good to you.
Right.
When you're blending, you're seeing what is bad about it, and then trying to fill that in, fix it. Right?
Why?
Isn't that the case? That you taste it and you go, well,
okay,
it'd be better if we added some of this in here.
So let's talk about blending for a minute, just since we're on the subject.
Okay.
Blending, to me, and I've said this a million times and I'll say it over and over and over again, blending is the art of controlling variables.
Okay.
That's what blending is. There's many different reasons why you blend. Mm-hmm. Some places blend to achieve a consistent flavor profile of a product that's on their shelf, so they take huge racks of whiskey, blend out all the differences in those racks of whiskey to make a consistent profile. Other places blend for limited edition whiskeys where they're going through and they're picking specific products and they want to make something that's special. Mm-hmm. Other places blend for uniqueness and quality. My place, when I do my blends, and for the record, I'm not only blending. Right. We'll put out single barrels, we'll put out everything just like most of the normal brands that you see, but I'm going to focus a lot on quality the entire time.
Right.
My belief is that if you always put out a quality product, you never have to worry about customers, even in a tight environment. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're focusing on that. We'll be blending for uniqueness but quality every time. I don't want things to taste exactly like they did before because I want people to consistently want to purchase my products.
Right.
So I will blend for uniqueness but quality every time.
Yeah, so you worked on a couple very popular blends. It was Old Body your first big hit?
It was that was the first time I ever blended.
Okay.
So I went down there and what I did is I didn't blend whole barrels. I blended for quality. And, you take the opportunities that are in front of you and you do the best you can with what you got. Like you said, you can't go to any distillery and just do whatever you want to do, right?
Right.
I couldn't either. I just couldn't walk into Wild Turkey and say, hey, I want to do this, and they're just going to be like, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, they're going to be like, hell no.
Let me get you a graduated cylinder.
Right. Where's my hygrometer? It's like, come on. So I took the opportunities that were there. It was a smaller facility. I am very thankful for those opportunities.
Sure.
I wouldn't change anything.
Right.
I had the opportunity to go in there carte blanche. I could do anything I wanted to do with what they had. Mm-hmm. And I did. And what I came up with was better than anything I've tasted that I've done with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'd never had the opportunity to do it. And I blended for different reasons. The way I looked at it was like, I'm trying to blend products that I enjoy together to achieve something I enjoy even more.
Okay.
That's
rather
the goal.
Than fill in the gaps.
Right.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'm taking pieces of a puzzle to create a beautiful picture.
That makes sense. Yeah, so I have started to experiment a little bit with some blends and more along your lines where I go, okay, I really like this drinker and this drinker and this drinker from these 3 distilleries. What would happen if I did 1/3 of each? What would happen if I did this? So I am starting to experiment.
Yeah,
but
that's exactly
I find
right.
that if you take things that you love and you blend them together, it's pretty unlikely you're going to end up with something you hate.
That's right.
Right. So that
Mike Jasinski. So Mike is a very smart guy, and a very smart dude. And for y'all that don't know him, he's been on the pages for a while, but he's up in Pennsylvania, I believe. But he always said, with cocktails especially, and this is what made me think about this, he always told me, he said, people look at me crazy when I make an old fashioned out of a Gold Vein Weller. He said, but better in, better out.
Okay.
Stuck with me. I'll never forget that. And it's 100% true. Better in, better out.
That makes sense. And so at some point, you decided that you were going to, leave retail and strike out on your own. So you've started your own distillery, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. We're in the process of all of it. It's such a process.
Right.
So when I was here at Cork, I didn't have the proper time that I needed to set everything up the way that I did. So I had to take a leave from Cork to be able to have the time to put into it to make it come to fruition.
Right.
And now we're at the point of making it come to fruition.
Gotcha.
It's fantastic.
Do you have your DSP yet?
No. So we're not brick and mortar yet. Okay. We'll be putting bottles out this year, though, for certain.
Okay.
And then we're stepping up to brick and mortar from there.
Gotcha.
It'll happen very fast.
Does that mean you have to operate underneath someone else's DSP temporarily?
Yeah. So that's how you do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
so
I've heard of that type of arrangement.
Yeah, and there's a lot, man. And so I'm very fortunate to have such a head start in this industry compared to everybody else that's starting because I already know all the people to ask to help me along the way, and people are so willing to help.
So when did you take your leave of absence? Wasn't it in 2018?
Yeah, it was September 2018.
So what have you been doing since then?
Oh my gosh, so many projects.
Yeah?
I've helped out with a lot of the festivals that are here in town, and anything bourbon related I've had my hands in here in northern Kentucky.
Nice.
And it's been a blast. I've been working on all kinds of stuff that'll be coming. I can't really say a whole lot of.
Sure.
But yeah, they're coming for sure.
I know about some stuff that I can't tell you. So, do you get hired as like a blending consultant and things like that for some of the smaller brands?
I've been asked to do some consulting work, and honestly, I've been passing on it. I want to focus. I want to focus on mine. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and honestly, and maybe that'll change in the future. I don't know, but right now my plate's a little full.
So are you at the point where you've got capital, you've bought barrels?
Can't say all that stuff yet. We're in negotiations with some stuff. So.
With some stuff, okay. Yeah. Well, gosh, man,
I can't give you the full scoop yet.
I want to get the truth out there.
It's coming. It's coming.
All right. So this is the MB Roland.
So that's a wild, unique one.
This one's unique. So MB Roland normally uses 25 gallon.
So they intentionally put on here nothing. So I can't say what barrel it was in, but I will tell you that I have not tasted another pick of yours that's like that one.
Okay.
That was our very first private pick ever done. It has a very unique profile. Mary Beth Rowland and Paul Tomaszewski down there, they're just north of Clarksville, Tennessee. So they're in Kentucky, about 2 miles into the border. Paul is a very unique individual. I like him a lot, and I respect him because he is very true to craft distilling. Now, most craft distilleries get a bad name because they don't do things the proper way. He's a craft distillery that's truly a craft distillery. He makes very unique spirits that nobody else produces. They're not all bourbon. They're not all whiskeys. He makes all kinds of crazy stuff. I popped a barrel down there that was a hemp whiskey they produced.
Really?
Tasted like bread and butter dill pickles. It was the craziest whiskey I've ever tasted. I'll never forget it. So Paul's a great guy. Mary Beth is one of my favorite people in the industry. She is so full of energy and so passionate about what they do. They make a whiskey called Dark Fire whiskey down there, which is a smoked whiskey. It's very similar to like the version of a peated Scotch, except bourbon, but not bourbon. It's a whiskey.
Right.
It's a bourbon mash with smoke added to it, kind of.
Have you had Andalusia?
I haven't.
Yeah, he's got a couple of different smoked whiskeys. Well, one that's peated and one that's smoked. And it's not quite like Balcones Brimfire or Brimstone, but it's in that vein. But now I can definitely taste that there's a lot of smoke flavor coming through in this.
So I was talking to Mary Beth about that. I said, do you all not clean all the lines and everything? She goes, no, we're steaming it's all clean, everything in between. And I'm trying to figure out where that smoke came from. And then it dawned on me. They don't clean the hammer mill between mash grindings.
Oh, yeah.
So they smoke their corn for like a week before they grind it up for that whiskey.
For that run, yeah.
And so what you're picking up is a little bit of that smoke. And it's not even close to what that smoked whiskey is.
Right. Which I probably wouldn't like, but I think this is beautiful.
It adds such a wonderful note to that bourbon that you just don't get anywhere else.
Yeah. So I have experienced that. So at Balcones, they have both a hammer mill and roller mill.
Sure.
Because they roller mill all of their malts. And if you take the tour and they just got done with their peated, it smells smoky as all get out. And they're like, we did peated a few days ago, so it's still in the air. So I could totally get into that. That's awesome. So what's the name of your new company?
Rising Tide Spirits.
And so I read something that was interesting because I am in real estate.
Sure.
And so people ask me all the time about the state of the real estate market and all of that. And I always say, when the tide comes in, all ships rise.
That's exactly right.
And my point is that, sometimes people are afraid of, well, if I sell this house and buy another house, am I going to miss out on the opportunity of this house?
Right.
And I go, well, no. When the tide comes in, all ships rise. The other house that you would buy, it's also going to elevate in value. And so how does that concept play into you naming your company that?
I like the ability to bring recognition to Northern Kentucky and to Cincinnati. This area is way underappreciated for its spirits. We got New Riff up here. There's Boone County down the street. There's all kinds of places around here that are so enthusiastic. The Cincinnati Bourbon Society is up over 5,000 members now. Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Bourbon Society, huge market. Todd Carnes is doing great with that, and Mark Collins, they're doing fantastic. I want to elevate all the businesses here as much as I possibly can. Right. The best way I can do that is to bring in tourism, because those tourists will support those businesses around me. JFK said, a rising tide lifts all ships. He couldn't be more true.
Right.
I have the opportunity to help everybody. and that's all I want. Money's great, it comes and goes.
Right.
But you can make a difference when you put food on somebody's plate.
Yeah, I definitely believe in that. I mean, I've tried to use my podcast to spread the good word, right?
Sure.
And maybe dispel some unfair stereotypes that are out there.
Sure.
Not just in the whiskey industry, but I do podcasts about social issues as well.
Sure.
And I believe that if we all work together, that there's a way to find a win-win-win-win-win for everybody, and no one needs to lose. We
have such a market still to grow in whiskey, it's unbelievable. I was talking about this earlier, but bourbon is really very easy to understand. Mm-hmm. If the world is a pond, you throw a rock, it would land in Kentucky. The ripple effect is bourbon. That's the way it works. What's popular here now isn't popular anywhere else right now, but what's popular everywhere else was popular here before.
Gotcha.
That's the way it works. And so it spreads all the way out, all the way across the globe. I mean, I have bottles I picked that are in Australia, in China, in Europe, in England, and they're everywhere. All over. I've seen pictures from everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how that works. My job is just to get bottles out, to get it to people everywhere. I just need to get bottles on the market at this point, and I want to be able to spread the joy of what I do through bottles and put happiness in people's mouths at the same time, put food on people's plates here in Kentucky.
That's amazing.
They need it. Our farmers have been destroyed here because of all the tariffs. This is a farming area. Mm-hmm. I mean, Cincinnati isn't, but right on the outskirts is.
Right.
We're in the Midwest. We're corn growers, soybean growers, and those have been hit the hardest by all the tariffs. Mm-hmm. This gives me an opportunity to help all those people again.
Sure, I like that. So from a process standpoint, tell the people what Rising Tides, what the products are going to be like that they're going to release. Because you're not trying to put in a big still and make 1,200 barrels a day and all that stuff in the beginning, right?
Not in the beginning, no. We're going to step up to that eventually. The goal is eventually to build a large facility, eventually. Right now, it's to step up to it. My goal is to focus on the 70% of whiskey people don't talk about.
Okay.
It's commonly accepted that in our industry, that 30% of whiskey's flavor is made by white dog. 70% is by the maturation process. Okay. Yet, if you go to distilleries, they're going to spend 100% of their time talking about 30% of the flavor. Mm-hmm. That's great. There's a lot of people that you can learn from on that. I'm not one of them.
Right.
I'm focused on the palate work that I do and how it relates to the whiskey and the maturation process and the barrel to bottle process. So by focusing on the part that the other big guys don't have the time to really focus on, it's going to elevate my product better than theirs.
Gotcha.
I can take a whiskey and by fine-tuning it simply through mild proofing and through correct filtration on each individual barrel that will make it ready to drink in the bottle right away and significantly better than anybody else's. That's my goal.
That sounds like some level 10 whiskey nerd stuff that I've never thought of.
Okay, so every bottle that you taste, you remember the last person that handled that bottle. That's your impression of their whiskey. Mm-hmm. But we talk about the guys that make the beginning of the process.
Right.
No disrespect to them. They're freaking amazing. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not knocking them. That's not what I'm saying. I just want to focus a little bit more on the other guys that don't get quite the attention that really have a lot to do with what you taste.
Does Scotland have it right then?
I think they do.
That they're a little more focused on the blending than the...
It's talent.
Yeah.
It doesn't...
It's garbage in, garbage out, so you can't start with bad distillate.
Nope. Absolutely correct.
But what you're tasting in the barrel is mostly affected by the maturation process.
I've never tasted a sweet white dog.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Never tasted a dark white dog either.
If you did, something terribly wrong.
That's right.
Terribly wrong. And so you all will be doing single barrels, but
we'll do single barrels,
small batch blends.
Right. Nietzsche releases it first, and then we'll transition into more traditional shelf lines as well. But we'll also still always pay attention to that's my goal. I never want to drop in quality.
And do you have distribution channels set up yet? Do you know where your bottles will be released when they are ready?
First state will be Kentucky for the first release. It'll be a small release, and then we'll step up from there and we'll start spreading. But I have Texas high on my radar.
Yeah,
Chris,
Texas is a big market, and Christopher Hart is.
I know Chris. Yeah.
Yeah,
we talked a while. He's a good dude.
Good dude.
Randy down there is great. Wade's good. I mean, they're all good, and they all mean well. So even though they're maybe a little gruff from time to time, they mean well.
He's talking about Wade, by the way.
They mean well.
I just dropped an episode with Wade like 3 weeks ago.
I like Wade a lot, personally. I really do.
Well, I would strongly recommend you show him your cola applications before you submit them.
You know, he's a gem, and I'm really surprised more people don't use his services.
Well, and he doesn't charge for it. He's so committed to the truth that it's like, I'll do it for free. Just don't screw it up.
Right.
You know? So
he's so good. I mean, and the truth is that he cares about each and every one of us, even though he doesn't act like it sometimes. And he's trying to help. And I totally respect him for that. And I have a very good relationship with Wade.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people in the industry are trying to, bring more to the table for the consumer and whatnot. So, final question.
Sure.
If you could whip out your magic wand and wave it, what would be the future of Rising Tide Spirits in the near term, 5 years and 10 years from now? What would it look like?
There's a few things. I want to start with this part first because this is important to me. I did a lot of the sticker stuff when I was here. It's gotten out of control.
Okay.
It's got to stop.
I like this conversation.
This stuff that happened with New Riff, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible for them.
So for those of you who are not level 10 deep in the whiskey game, when people pick a barrel, usually something happens while you're picking the barrel, and you will make a sticker like this one.
This one.
Yeah, and let me see if I can hold that up and you can see it better. Right, so you make a little cutesy sticker, and it usually has some information on it about who picked the barrel and whatnot, and we refer to them as tater stickers. And recently, tater stickers have gotten a little bit out of control. It's pretty common for tater stickers to violate some intellectual property rights and whatnot, but usually you're talking about 120, 180 bottles going to a private club. It's not really affecting the sale of the bottles, just for fun. But there has been some controversy about whether or not those stickers have the ability to damage the underlying brand, who has no control over the content of the sticker, but it is stuck to their bottle where their name and trademark is.
Now, keep in mind, this all happens after market. It's after been sold already, so there's really nothing they can do about it. But the truth is that it used to mean something different than it does now. When I did picks and I did stickers on them, I didn't do stickers on every single barrel I picked. I did it on ones I wanted to be remembered.
Right.
I did it with a purpose. They were amazing whiskey that I wanted my name attached to. Now it seems like before they even get to the barrel pick, there's stickers already created for these stupid bottles. Not only that, the companies that are doing it, they're controversial because there's always one jerk that takes it too far. And it hurts the companies that are producing this whiskey. This place employs 80-some people. If they get shut down because of some dumbass sticker on there, those people don't get fed. You got to have some common sense. My place, I'm telling you right now, I'm cutting off stickers. There's no aftermarket crap that'll go on any of my bottles, and if it does, that place will not pick at my place anymore. I'm going to offer a barrel pick program that's far and above better than anybody else's. I already have it designed. It will be a huge loss on their part. If you want to be remembered for what you pick at my place, pick something good and make it good. And then put it up against everybody else's and do it the right way, because that's how I earn my reputation. My stuff always won in blinds. People talk about my stickers and that kind of stuff, but they don't understand. Whenever my bottles were entered into blinds, they always won. I think I lost maybe one blind pick, and I came in second on that one. Right. Literally in 4 years. So
it's not the sticker selling the bottle, it's the ability to pick the right one.
I'm telling you now, there is a way to tell who can pick whiskey and who can't, and the damn sticker has nothing to do with it.
So that's the short term. We're going to do some barrel picks. What's the intermediate and long range goal?
Long range goal is to build a full facility. At some point, I have a couple other irons in the fire that are longer term projects after that. And we got one that you know that's working short term. So we got a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of irons in the fire, people.
I like to have my hands in all the bourbon stuff here.
So if you wanted the listening audience to pay attention so that they could participate with you as you go through this process, where should they go to sign up, to follow you? We have all social medias. It's under Rising Tide Spirits. And I would suggest Facebook to begin with. That's where we'll probably be releasing most of our information to begin with, just because that's a platform you're familiar with. Yeah. But then we'll grow from there, and we'll go full marketing from there. But best place to start if you want to catch the first release, and it's going to be a tight one. It's going to go very, very fast. I mean, I'm probably only going to release, my guess would be around 1,100 bottles on the first release. Okay. And I've already got requests for cases from people. I can imagine, with your success and your picks in the past. Plus, this is going to be kind of epic because with as much growth as we're expecting in this thing, people are going to want the first release for their collection.
Well, not only that, but think about this. There's only one other place in the entire market that went from liquor store to producer, and that's Ken Lewis right down the road.
Yeah, New Riff.
New Riff.
Yeah.
Great guys.
Yeah.
Can't speak highly enough of them. And please still support them regardless of stickers or not.
Yeah.
That's absolutely absurd.
I have a slightly different take on whether or not that injured them, but out of respect for Ken's position, because I know that he's not a big fan of the stickers to begin with, and your sentiment, I will share that on another podcast. If you want more information about Bourbon Real Talk, you can get that at bourbonrealtalk.com. You can find us at YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook /Bourbon Real Talk. You can search for us on your podcast player. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Review, comment, and if you woke up this morning and you were unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that I love you. And I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk. Cheers.
Cheers.